My now ex-partner asked me to marry him, even though I told him that I don't ever want to get married again. There's not really much to this story because the title explains it, but I, a 42-year-old female, have talked multiple times with my partner, a 43-year-old male, about this topic. I told him that I never want to get married, and it's not about him, but it's just the fact that I see no point in it. I was married once and had a horrible divorce when my ex tried to take away our daughter and more. Basically, I decided I never want to be bound to anyone in that way. It's easier to just break up than to divorce. My partner isn't really happy with this, and he asked me multiple times what would change my mind and if I just do not want to marry him. These questions started to infuriate me and would lead to arguments because I said it a million times. The last time we had an argument was at the beginning of July when he started that topic again, and I told him that I think we need to stop this relationship because it's obvious we don't agree on it. I made a big deal about it, and my daughter and his kids were mad at me because I wanted to break up, but he didn't. I decided to stay, and I was finally convinced we were done with this topic and that he agreed to just continue living together until we went on vacation last week to Greece, and for some reason, he asked me to marry him. It made me so mad. I seriously didn't know if I wanted to cry or scream. He asked me this in front of my daughter and his kids, and it made it even worse. I said no and went back to the room. They stayed behind and probably talked negatively about me. But now I realized that not marrying him was a good choice because even though I said no multiple times before, he thought that if he pressured me on vacation at a public place and in front of the kids, that I would feel obligated to say yes. I packed my bags and told my daughter to do the same. She was mad at me, but she will get over it. So we came back from the trip only 2 days after we arrived. I don't want to continue this relationship because I feel disrespected and disgusted by the way he thinks. Yikes. And I personally don't think I'm a bad person, and this is more of a rant, but I guess you can tell me. To add, I never knew this would get so many comments, and for people who agree with me, thank you. A little addition to this, many people are mentioning that my past relationship is the reason I don't want to marry. But no, it's not. I don't even think about my first failed marriage, and it's irrelevant. I just don't want to get married again because it doesn't feel special or important anymore. Besides that, since I returned from vacation last week, he sent me multiple messages accusing me of cheating and that being the reason I don't want to get married. He called me some shameful names, so that tells me enough about how much he really loved me or cared. Safe to say, this relationship is completely over. Basically, now he is still calling me and sending messages, but saying he's sorry for calling me a bad name and saying I'm cheating on him. He's again saying it doesn't matter that I don't want to get married and that we shouldn't break up. I know this isn't true because he said it before too. And yeah, I guess this is the last update. Stop mentioning the previous divorce. I only mentioned it to say that I was married once, so it's not like this is something new to me and I'm scared or whatever. It's as simple as that. I don't want to marry him or anyone for whatever reason. I loved him, but now I hate him because he's a lying idiot who keeps insisting he is fine with not being married and then talks about it all the time. I don't care. Thank you for commenting and sharing opinions. Now for a few comments before the update. Comment 1. Not the audience's fault, but I think you should explain to your daughter why you said no and left. Tell her that you explained repeatedly that you didn't want marriage for an extended time and that your now ex was pushy and then ignored your wishes. Explain that this is not a healthy relationship where people aren't listening or respecting each other. This could be an important lesson on what a healthy relationship is for her. Comment 2. Not the audience's fault, not your fault. You were very upfront with him. It's not your fault he chose to do that again. You did not ruin the vacation, so stop that. If anyone ruined it, it was him. And as long as I'm on a roll, one more thing. Pulling that stunt in front of the kids was very manipulative. I would really rethink this relationship. One more thing, I've been married twice. Don't do it. Now for the update. I'm back with another update on my breakup with my ex, which happened a few weeks ago. Life has been crazy. Just been focusing on my kids and trying to get us into some kind of routine. You know, the usual. The only thing that's been really bothering me is the constant barrage of texts from my ex. He's been blaming me for everything. Like, I suddenly don't love him, and that's the reason for everything. Give me a break. It's been getting to the point where I just ignore most of his messages because I'm not about to get into a back and forth with him. It's just not worth it anymore. But the other day, he sent me this text saying he had something important to discuss. Not a chance. I left that right on read. Not engaging, not my problem. The kids have been asking about their dad a lot lately, which I kinda expected. They want to know why he hasn't been around. I've just been keeping it simple with them. Sometimes adults just don't get along, and that's okay. I think they get it. We even went to a local carnival over the weekend, which was pretty fun. Except that I ran into my ex there, but that's another story. So we're having a good time at the carnival, eating cotton candy and all that, and out of nowhere, there's my ex with a new girlfriend. Like, seriously? This girlfriend is younger and all over him. It was a lot to take in. He then introduces her to our kids, saying she's just a friend for now. Sure, buddy, whatever helps you sleep at night. That evening, my daughter asked if Daddy was going to marry the new lady, and I just didn't know what to say. Like, how do you answer that? A week later, I went to my brother's birthday party, and of course, my family had to bring up my ex. My mom even mentioned how he was always the favorite, and I had to roll my eyes so hard I thought they were going to get stuck. I mean, come on. It's not like I chose him. The family was talking about this family reunion coming up. And guess who was invited? Yep, my ex. My sister even suggested I should give it a shot for the kids' sake. I almost choked on my drink. But I decided to bring the kids anyway, hoping it would be a low-key event. Spoiler alert, it was anything but that. My ex showed up with the new girlfriend, who immediately started trying to engage the kids. It was a lot. Then, during one of the games, she accidentally spilled a drink on my son. She laughed it off, but I had to step in and say it wasn't funny. Of course, my ex tried to play peacemaker, saying I was overreacting and that the kids would get used to this new situation. Ugh, I felt my blood pressure rising. Like, how dare you act like I'm the problem here? The tension was basically a living thing, and everyone around could feel it. My brother had to intervene and ask us to keep the peace for the kids' sake. I ended up leaving early with my kids because I just felt so overwhelmed. On the way home, my daughter asked why Daddy and the new lady couldn't just be friends, and I didn't have an answer. Later that week, I got an unexpected call from my ex's mom. She started off by expressing her disappointment over our breakup. She said she had high hopes for our family. Well, sorry to crush your dreams, lady. After that call, I decided to cut ties with his family too. I just can't deal with it anymore. The next weekend, my ex called again, demanding to see the kids. I told him we needed some space and he should respect my decision. You'd think that would be the end of it, right? Nope. He got all angry, saying I was keeping them from him and even threatening legal action. Now he's just grasping at straws. A few days later, I met up with a coworker for lunch to talk about some work projects. During our chat, she brought up relationships, which led to a conversation about my situation. It was nice to talk about it with someone who wasn't in the middle of it all. So, yeah, that's my life lately. Just trying to deal with the fallout from this breakup and make sure my kids are okay. Again, thank you to everyone who gave helpful advice. I'm not sure if I will be updating further, however. I mean, life just keeps throwing curveballs at me, you know? Like, I wasn't expecting to see him at the carnival with this new girlfriend, and definitely not in front of my kids. But I'm just trying to keep it together for them. It's hard to keep explaining things to the kids when I'm still trying to figure it all out myself. And now with his mom calling and the pressure from my family to just get along? Yeah, it's a lot, but I'm pretty sure I made the right call, cutting ties with his family. I just can't deal with that right now. I'm just focusing on my kids, my job, and trying to get some normalcy back in our lives. Edit. I didn't find out about his new girlfriend before the carnival. He introduced her to the kids at the carnival. My daughter asked if they were friends, and I didn't know what to say. Am I the idiot for laughing in the face of the woman claiming my dead husband fathered her child and refusing to give her a dime. My husband passed away almost 3 years ago, leaving me a solo mom of an 8-year-old. I've learned a lot about who he really was since then. Let's just say that if he were alive, we wouldn't still be married. About 6 weeks ago, a process server showed up trying to serve him with a court order to submit DNA for a child. I gave him a copy of the death certificate and sent him on his way. Shortly after that, a woman shows up on my doorstep saying that the child she had with her was my late husband's child. Is it? I don't know, and I don't care. It kind of looks like him, but also looks young enough that they would have had to have been conceived very, very shortly before his death. I told her that he was gone and where she could find his grave. She almost immediately started demanding her half of his estate. I laughed and told her that half of nothing was nothing, and she was welcome to that. Where I've been informed that I might be in the wrong is that while it's true there was no estate, there were assets that passed outside of probate. One of those assets was a rental property that his parents gave us years ago, deeded with him and me as joint tenants with rights of survivorship. In short, it became mine when he died. I've already sold it, and that will be the money that sends my child to college. Legally, I'm good. I've already talked to my attorney about this. While I feel bad for this child, I also have a child of my own to look out for. To add, no, there was no will in place for him. In my state, intestate inheritance laws say that if the only heirs are me and my child, then the first $50,000 of the estate goes to me and my child gets half of what's left. If this does turn out to be his child, then half of the estate would go to me and half to the children, i.e., my child would get 25% and the other child would get 25%. However, that is a moot point because his estate was literally an empty bank account and $40 in cash. Everything else passed outside of probate. A good estate attorney is worth every penny, even if I never could get him to meet with her to do his will. There was no life insurance. Yes, I'm in the United States and my child is receiving survivor's benefits. They aren't huge, but they do pay for the therapy bills. He hadn't worked for a vast majority of our marriage, but luckily did have enough credits to qualify. At this point, I'm not opposed to helping the other child receive the same benefits since it won't affect mine. However, my attorney has recommended holding off at this time because we don't know what she's planning. She assures me that if the other mother files with Social Security, they will backdate any payments to at least the date filed, so holding off won't affect the total amount if it does turn out to be his child. I have no idea if she knew he was married at the time or not. My husband's parents are alive, but our relationship is strained at best. I haven't told them about any of this and have done my best to let them keep believing that their son was a saint. Now, for a few comments before the update. Comment 1. Not the a-hole unless she has a way to prove paternity. You have zero obligations to her or her affair child. Even if he is, the rental property was in your name, so it was not your husband's to give away. Remember, she chose to wreck your house. I would not open the door for her. Comment 2. Not the a-hole. You need to focus on your child and your finances. The property legally belongs to you, and there's no proof your late husband was the father of the other child. Your priority is your own child's future. Now for the update. I'm back with a little update on the situation. It's been about a month since I last posted. You guys remember the woman who came to my door claiming my late husband was the father of her child? Well, she is back. This time she sent me a letter. The letter basically demanded a paternity test and threatened legal action if I didn't comply. I was like, okay, better get my attorney involved again. Talk to her, and she said I should document everything related to this woman and her claims. So I started keeping a detailed log of all interactions, phone calls, you name it. I even started doing some research on this woman just to see what I could find. Turns out the woman has a history of making similar claims against other deceased men. Big surprise, I know. I was at a school event for my child when I spotted her in the crowd. I thought, oh great, here we go again. She walked right up to me, holding a photo of a child that looked just like my late husband. I was so not in the mood for this. I cut her off, saying I didn't have time for whatever she was trying to pull. She just laughed and said she'd be back with legal papers soon. I was just like, great, can't wait. I decided it was time to confront my husband's parents about all this. So I invited them over for dinner and casually mentioned the claims during dessert. My husband's mother looked shocked and claimed she had no idea about any other child. That led to everyone discussing my husband's past and sharing old stories. It was actually kind of nice, except for the whole other child thing. I made a plan to gather evidence about this woman's claims without letting her know what I was up to. I heard about a local community event that was happening, and I knew she would probably be there, so I went. I overheard her bragging to a bunch of people about her supposed connection to my late husband. I couldn't believe it. I walked right up to her and pretended to agree with her. She looked surprised but played along, thinking I was on her side. I secretly recorded our conversation on my phone. After the event, I shared the recording with my attorney for advice. She thought it was a great idea and suggested that I use the recording to discredit the woman. So I decided to send her a cease and desist letter. My attorney drafted a strong letter outlining the legal implications of her actions. A few days later, she sent me a response in the form of her own lawyer's letter, and it just escalated everything. My attorney said we might need to prepare for a court battle. At a family gathering, I shared the news about how things were escalating with my husband's parents. They were really supportive and shocked at the woman's audacity. I feel like I have a little bit of an army behind me, which is nice. So at this point, I decided it was time to take a more aggressive approach. I arranged a meeting with the woman, intending to confront her directly. During the meeting, I revealed to her that I had evidence against her. She became defensive right away, saying she only wanted what was fair. I calmly explained that no one was entitled to anything from my late husband, especially not her. She threatened to go public with her claims if I didn't comply. I told her I had already spoken to reporters and hinted at a story. You should have seen her face. It was priceless. I ended the meeting by making it clear that I wouldn't be intimidated by her. Seriously, I'm taking control of the story here. She has no ground to stand on, and she knows it. I'm just trying to protect my child and myself. Mini update. After the meeting, the woman backed off a bit. She didn't go public with anything, and her responses have been pretty quiet. My attorney thinks she realized I wasn't bluffing. My child is unaware of most of this, just knowing there were some issues with my late husband's family, but nothing more. Am I the idiot for telling my fiancé to back off about inviting my estranged parents to our wedding? Some backstory. My dad left the family and went no contact when I was 4 years old. My mom remarried and had 2 kids with my stepdad. My stepdad never treated me poorly, but always made clear that I was not his son. He was not my dad. My mom never tried to fix the relationship and honestly loved her new family and always saw me as a burden. That's what I thought, at least until it was confirmed after my freshman year of college, when my mom asked me not to come home anymore. I blocked her after that phone call and have had no contact with her or my stepdad and half-brother since then. I do still speak to my half-sister, who is 25 years old, at her insistence, but that's my only contact. It took me a long time to deal with basically being kicked out of my family. I grew to be pretty independent and thought I'd live alone until I met my fiancé, who is 28 years old, 4 years ago. We have had a great relationship, and her family opened up and invited me in with open arms. She comes from a pretty typical suburban family, and they are great. Over the years, I've told her about my issues with my family. She has met my sister, and she never pushed for more until we started planning the wedding. When we started talking about who we would invite, I talked about friends from college and coworkers, and she kept saying I should invite my parents. At first, I thought she was just trying to gauge if I wanted to. I said I would not be inviting my parents. She said okay, but then brought it up again the next day. I calmly explained how much they hurt me, how growing up feeling you were unwanted and then having it confirmed at 19 really stunted my mental health. That over the years I have realized it's their problem, and if they ever want to solve it, then they can initiate. But I am in contact with my sister, and it is clear they are happy insisting I don't exist. It sucks, but it's their problem that they have thrust onto me. I can't be the one to solve it. I thought it had ended, but she has brought it up 2 more times. The last one was last night. We were about to start the save the dates, and she said, "Are you sure you don't want to invite your parents? I feel like I might just invite them on my side." And I snapped. I told her we should probably just throw the invitations away, because if you can't respect what I've been through, then I don't want to marry you. I then went to our bedroom and fumed for a while. She came in to try to talk to me, and I walked out, grabbed my keys, and left. I came back around 11 p.m. after hanging out with friends and slept on the couch. She left for work without a word to me, and I don't know where we stand. Her behavior is unacceptable, but I feel I may have gone too far. What do you all think? Am I the jerk? Now, for a few comments before the update. Comment 1, not the jerk. No, you have not gone too far. Postpone the wedding, just to be sure. Because she sure as hell does not respect your experience and decision based on that. There has been a story here on Am I the Idiot about a bride who would not stop, and in the end did invite the mother with whom the groom was no contact. It ended with a groom who didn't appear in front of the officiant because one of the siblings warned him. I think after the prospective in-laws were informed why she wasn't invited, they were appalled at their daughter's behavior. Look for that story and maybe show that to her. But honestly, before you marry her, you two are in dire need of couples counseling for a few months to see if she really can respect your decision and if a marriage would have a future. As it stands now, because she can't even be an adult and talk to you, instead she's throwing a tantrum, she's not wife material. Comment 2. In my humble opinion, you need to sit down with her and tell her that either you need to push back the wedding date to get some couples therapy for her issues of not hearing you and respecting you as a partner, or if she isn't willing to work on her problem, then calling off the wedding is the only option. As some here have suggested, there's a fair chance she's already contacted your mom about the wedding. If you do go on with the wedding, be clear that if she brings it up again, the wedding is off. And if they somehow show up, oops, that you would absolutely leave the venue. Without respect and trust, there's no point in getting married. Not the jerk, but it sounds like you're engaged to one. Now for the update. A few months have passed since the argument about inviting my parents to the wedding. Yeah, that whole mess. My fiancée, Olivia, and I decided to take a break from wedding planning. Honestly, we needed it. We focused on finding a new apartment together. We thought a fresh start might help us get back on track. We visited a few places and settled on a cozy 2-bedroom near her work. The place had a nice view and enough space for both our stuff. The move went smoothly, and I started to feel a sense of normalcy. Like, hey, maybe we can get through this after all. Olivia suggested we have a small dinner party to celebrate the new place. I thought it was a great idea. She invited her parents and her sister, but I didn't think to invite my family. I know. It was a mistake, but we were just trying to focus on us for a change. The night of the dinner, Olivia was in the kitchen preparing food. She's a pretty good cook, so I was looking forward to it. I was setting the table when I noticed her texting someone. I casually asked who she was texting, thinking it was her sister. She hesitated and said it was just a friend. But I noticed the tension in her voice. I didn't think much of it then. Her parents arrived and we started the dinner with light conversation. Olivia's mom asked if we had finalized the wedding date yet. I could see Olivia getting a bit stiff at the question. We just said we were still figuring things out, and that was that. We finished dinner, and Olivia suggested we play a board game. Classic us. I noticed Olivia excused herself to take another call in the other room. Her dad made a comment about how it's important to have family around for big events. I replied that not all families are supportive, referencing my own situation. It was awkward, but I was just being honest. Olivia returned, looking flustered, and tried to change the subject. After her parents left, I confronted her about the calls during dinner. She revealed she was talking to her friend about my family. I snapped, saying I didn't want to discuss my family again. Olivia raised her voice, saying I was being unreasonable. I walked out to the balcony to cool off while she cleaned up. I could hear her moving around inside, and it felt like a peaceful moment, but we were still on edge. Later, I overheard her on the phone, sounding upset. I listened closely and heard her mention wanting to invite my parents to our new place. I went back inside and asked her who she was on the phone with. She said it was just a friend, but I felt something was off. A few days later, I found a message on my phone from my mom. She mentioned wanting to come visit and meet Olivia at our new place. I was torn, but decided to tell Olivia about the message. I brought it up casually, but she looked anxious. I suggested maybe it would be a good idea for them to meet. She erupted, accusing me of not understanding her feelings about my family. I left the room, frustrated, and she followed me, demanding to know why I was avoiding the conversation. And we ended up arguing late into the night about my parents and our future. I finally said, if she couldn't accept my past, maybe we needed to rethink things. She went silent, and the next day I found her packing some of her things. I asked her if she was leaving, and she said she needed time to think. I didn't try to stop her, knowing it was a big moment for us. After a few days apart, she called to say she wanted to meet. We met at our favorite coffee shop, and she seemed calmer. I was nervous, but hopeful. We talked about setting boundaries with our families moving forward. We agreed to have a small dinner with my parents at our place, with some ground rules set beforehand. No surprises, no drama. We left the coffee shop, ready to face the family dinner together. Thank you for reading. Mini update. The dinner with my parents went better than expected, but we still had some tense moments. My parents were polite, but I could tell they were curious about Olivia. They asked typical questions like how we met and what we did for fun. Olivia seemed nervous at first, but I could see her warming up to them. However, things took a turn when my mom brought up my ex. I felt the air change, and Olivia's face went stiff. If you liked this video, you'll probably like these too. Also, while you're here, please consider subscribing. It's your support that keeps this channel alive and allows me to make better and longer videos. Have a great day.